Alright, so this is the Winchest Shrine deck. It's pretty solid. This was my take just on a version of the deck I saw, and I tweaked it and updated the power base and just made it work for me. Your mileage may vary, but this is a pretty fun deck to play in Expedition. I wasn't really a big fan of just straight Argenport, and I didn't really like any of the mid-range lists. So I saw this list as kind of a good way to hedge. We're still get to play Shrine, and like Backbreaker and stuff, but we have a lot more card draw and a lot more proactive like action going on. Still get access to Roll-ins and a lot of the good stuff, but at the same time, we're a deck that has some meat and some bones and potatoes and can slog through some grindy matchups. And thanks to Shrine of Karvet and Backbreaker just giving us so much value and like life and armor, we can eventually beat people down. So let's just take a look at some of the cards we're playing here. 4 Kindling Carver, just pretty standard in any Shrine deck. I lovingly call him William because of the president, William Carver, but you can call him whatever you want. I call him William. And we've got like Katos and Blight Moths and Interlopers, lots of good stuff to sacrifice and just churn through our deck in the early game. For the most part in the main deck, our most expensive card is Backbreaker, which will be a 4 cost. So most of our stuff though is like 3 cost or less. And oftentimes you'll be able to use this even with only 1 power open and get value out of it. Just make sure you're, don't make the mistake you'll probably see me make over and over and over again. If you plan on using Carver during your turn, do not play your power until after you use your Carver, because then you'll rip a power off your deck 100% of the time you mess that up and just troll yourself. And sometimes it matters, so play your power after you use Carver. Moving along, we've got Blight Moth, just a champion of the meta. In mirror matches or just against a lot of different stuff, minusing our opponent's things is where we want to be at. It's got flying too, which is cool. Making 2 bodies is just super relevant whenever we're trying to sacrifice stuff. Next up, we've got Kato. This guy just spits out 8/8s in the late game, but early on, he's just a really good fodder. 2-drop that creates 3 separate bodies, potentially more if you sacrifice him. And that lets you just have a lot of sacrifice fodder, like I said. So this will fill your void, and then in the late game, you're just killing people with like 2 10-8 gladiator brawlers with lifesteal and charge. Because this card's been nerfed before, but it's still really good. Next up, I added a Solemn Clergy. Sometimes I was struggling on land, so I made this adjustment. You might see in the videos this wasn't in the deck, but I added it. It's up to you what you do with this slot. It's kind of flex, but I figured a little extra power would be good, and sometimes the plunder and the silence can be relevant, so that's why this got added in. Interloper, Corrupted, just giving you a ton of power and influence, so that's why we opted to play this. Senway Smuggler, so we're playing 2 of these and then 3 brokers. Lets us hit, this card specifically will let us like on curve out into like an open contract or a ruin as needed. And then the rest of the stuff is usually brokered, but you can also broker out a junkyard. And then when you broker out junkyard, you can get back your smuggler. So if you think you're in a position where you can do that and like your junkyard's gonna live, sometimes it's correct to grab you smuggler, grab junkyard, get back your smuggler, play your smuggler again, grab something else, and yada yada. So that's a pretty solid line we can take, and it gives you a ton of value. Brokering Severin, brokering Junkyard, brokering Shavka's Loot. These are all great ways to win a game. Against like an artifact heavy deck or a relic heavy deck, we can broker Ruin, but I wouldn't really recommend that, but you can do it if you want to. Just make sure if you do this that they're a deck where you're going to have targets for that Ruin or you're going to be real sad. Shavka's Loot, though, you broker this and just obliterate your opponent 4 times is a good way to win a game. Brokering Junkyard is solid. Usually we have ways to like discard or plunder things away. So some of these will just get turned into other cards. But if you just keep flipping backbreakers into your hand, this life loss isn't going to matter. Plus with Shrine. So feel free to do this. It's not as risky as it seems. And then brokering Severin's just hilarious. We've got plenty of dual power spells and like lands. So feel free to broker Severin at your heart's content. You could opt to play Svetya or something else in that slot, but you'd have to change your merchants around. And Severin's grabbable with Senway Smuggler, so that's why Severin's in this slot. Also, the life gain's relevant sometimes. Next up, we've got Jadehorn. Pretty standard in any of these kinds of decks, but because it has Corrupted, we can make use of both halves of the body. Having Pledge will just mean more keepable hands, which is great. And then gaining the 3 armor is nice. Being able to attack twice with Backbreakers, super solid. And we're always happy to do it. If you have armor in play and you play your Backbreaker and then your Backbreaker gets buffed, and then you grab your Backbreaker back with the Junkyard, it'll actually get another buff. So there's times in this deck where we'll have like 16-20 armor on our Backbreaker, which is quite backbreaking. Siphoner Paladin, we're playing a sacrifice deck, so you know we had to play this guy. I probably could play 4, but it's hard to make room for stuff, so we're just playing 2. And yeah, you just sack stuff and buff your Backbreaker, or, you know, sack stuff and make a 3/3, and then later on play a Backbreaker, and then get your 3/3 and your Backbreaker back from the Junkyard. Maybe you're kind of getting a feel for how this deck kind of plays out, but it's pretty grindy, and it definitely has a lot of gas. Next up, we've got Roland. This is just the army in a can of the format. You play Roland and you win the mirror match. A lot of decks just don't really have an answer to Roland. He can't be annihilated. He can't be jacked. Definitely passes the jack check. And having Decay is good too, so if they're using weapons to kill him, at least, you know, they're smaller or whatever. Having Endurance also means he dodges Permafrost and a lot of stun effects. So yeah, Roland's just great. We have a lot of ways to kill things, and we can sometimes play Roland and just combust that turn, or whatever, or like have a weapon in play and then play Roland and then attack and then make a bird. Or I'm sorry, make a Silverblade Reaper, aka a bird. And if we go super wide with this and then we sack, then that's pretty solid. Next up, Strange Burglar. Usually these kinds of decks play more, but it starts to get clunky when we're playing so much top end. And this just tended to be kind of one of the slower cards. When it does get working, it's insane, but yeah, decide what you want to do. But Burglar, just draw 3, trigger Shrine. If you have Shrine in play, the 3 damage just gains you 3 life, so you net 0 and don't lose any life, which is cool. And drawing 3 cards every turn in the game will definitely win you a game real quick. Talked about Broker, talked about Backbreaker. Shrine, just +2 lifesteal charge if you sack, pretty straightforward. Stack a few of these in play and kiss your opponent goodbye. Combust, sack, kill a dude. Devour, sack, draw 2. This will help us dodge turn to seed and just churn through our deck even faster. And then Petition can grab Urkano Silex or Argenport Silex, or early on in the game, make sure we have all of the power we need to play stuff like Roland and all of our other cards. So that's the deck. Let me know what you think, and